Hello my lovelies! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jamie. Today we are going to be talking about the 16 books that I read for June. I read 16 books this month. I don't know at this point if I should be impressed or disturbed. I don't know. I don't even have all of them physically with me today. Before we start, I would like to make a little bit of an announcement about a certain channel. I have recently decided that I was going to start a brand new channel. I am super excited. So it is also going to pertain to books. However, for this channel, Librarian Critic, I have decided that I love watching the movies that got inspiration from the books or books that have been converted into movies. I love watching them and I love comparing the two so much. So I decided, why not make a channel about me comparing both the movie and the book. That is what Librarian Critic is about. I will include the tag for that channel down below if you guys like my channel and if you want to go check that one out. I do not have much on that one yet, just because I just started it. I do plan on making my intro video sometime this week about what's to be expected, some, movie to book recommendations or other way around. I am super excited for this. I feel like it's not work. Same reason as reading for me is not work. It's something else I enjoy. I am very critical when it comes to that kind of things. I'm super excited to start the channel. I hope you guys will check that one out. So without further ado, we are going to hop in to the first book that I read for the month of June, which so happens to be Always and Forever by Laura Jean. We finished a series this month. Always and Forever by Laura Jean is the third book in the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy by Jenny Han. I love Jenny Han. At this point, reading this book, I binged it in a day. The first book is about Laura Jean and her sisters and her father, getting the background story with that, and then we hop into something that happened to Laura Jean. She used to write a closing letter to the boy that she had a crush on and put it in a letter and put it away. One day, her letters get mailed out, and she's realizing this as boys are coming up to her like, you felt this way, or, do you still feel like that? And she's just starting to lose it. And to be honest, I would be just as embarrassed. I'll admit that. We never want our personal thoughts and feelings that were never meant to see the light of day in your used-to-be crush's hand. That's what the first book was about, and everything happening from there. Peter came into play. We met John in the second book. This book is about her and Peter and basically going through their life as a senior. That's what it's about. I can't say anything. I can't talk about characters that'll be in here because there's so much you have to learn in the first and second books in order to hop into this one. So I ended up giving this one a 4.25. After the second book, I just was kind of done. What I wanted to happen didn't happen. So I was upset for this whole entire book. I just wasn't into it. Did I still binge it? Yes. Did I still love it? Yes. Sort of. I wasn't fully enjoying it until the last 100 pages, because that's for me when the drama started and when things started to go cray-cray, and then I got really invested. I appreciate Peter in this book. I really do. I appreciate what he was trying to do and everything. I do appreciate him. But in the end, he wasn't who I liked. So it was kind of like a bittersweet moment for me in this one. It's kind of why I didn't like it as much. That may be just a personal preference. That it's done. That's all that needs to be said. It's done. So with that book being completely done, I have started to watch the movies. I did end up watching the very first one a while back. This book, it's probably going to take a while for me to watch the movie because I also have to watch P.S. I Still Love You. But this movie, I may or may not skip. I don't know. That'll depend on what happens with the other channel and how well they do. So, I don't know. We'll find out. The next one that I read is actually one of my 5 stars for this month, and it took me completely by surprise. I was not expecting this at all. All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I was heartbroken. And this book quite literally almost put me into a book slump. I held on by a thread. I was like that close to being in a book slump. But I read a couple of things that brought me out of it. This book, oh, wow. That's all I said for like a week after reading this. I didn't read anything because I was just, wow. It's a prize winner for a reason. I will put it that way. I was never really aware of how her name was said, even though I read the audiobook. So I will try Maryler? I'm pretty sure that it's definitely not how it's supposed to be pronounced, but we'll just call her Marie. We'll leave it at Marie. She is in Paris at the time with her father. She is blind, so she's living the life, trying to cope with her blindness because she became blind. She wasn't born blind, so that was something she had to cope with and figure out how to live. So that was the beginning of it for her. We also have another point of view in this. We also have Werner. He is actually in Germany, and he is about to become a part of the Hitler Youth. So, with Marie, Paris was one of the first ones that got invaded, so we get the story about her, how she got out, and we go from there with her story. And then we also have Werner, how he goes through, living as a Hitler Youth child. He's very, very smart for a kid. He's, fixing radios for adults, so should know better. There was also another part of this story that I thought was kind of more like I don't know what you would call it, but apparently with Marie's father, he works in a museum. They were in charge of guarding a particular stone. This stone was supposed to give the power of eternal life to the wielder. However, with the stone's history and everything that happened with it, it is also said to be a curse because, yes, it may keep you alive, but it'll cause misfortune for everyone else around you. So that kind of also comes into play. I don't know if you would call that magical realism or historical. I honestly don't know, but it was a very intriguing part of this. And during that time, artifacts and paintings and all of the major artifacts in Europe were under threat from being taken and being given to Germany. So this book touched on every hardcore topic that I could possibly think of in my brain. We've got death, we've got, Nazi Germany, which is horrific in itself. We've got deception, we've got horrors, we've got sexual abuse, we've got physical abuse. It goes on and on this. This completely is very heavy. I was actually more impressed with the fact of how he did timelines. It's not a typical timeline. It's very hard to explain. Here, I'm gonna have to use my hands for both of this. So we've got Marie and Werner here, the start of the war, and then we have them nearing the end of it. So instead of, coming up to meet that ending point, we're actually going like this. And we're slowly moving forward. It was very impressive, actually. The other thing that I was really impressed with was just the writing in general. It was very, very engrossing. It was thrilling. Everything about it was wonderful. I had no critique on this whatsoever. I was very impressed. And now I gotta get a hold of the rest of his works. I know he has written a couple, Cloud Cuckoo Land and a few others, but this one is one I will definitely be keeping. This definitely has its place, and then also I will be looking into the series as well. It did not do that well, which was very interesting to me. I could see why it was made into a series and not a movie because of the dual timelines, like I said, and the way it moved. but also having the dual perspectives from Marie and Warner. I can see it being a good series, but apparently it did not take very well. So that'll be definitely one that I do on the channel. Whether I do it anytime soon, I have no idea. So the next one that I read after that, to try and bring me out of the slump a little bit, was Hoop by Carl Hiaasen. I did enjoy it, but it is a children's, so it's very short and to the point, which is fine. I was just bored. I was so bored, in fact, that I reached about 170 pages in here before I gave up and skipped to the end, and sure enough, what I thought was going to happen, happened. There was no surprises whatsoever. Like I said, I read 170 pages of it, so I was going to rate it. I did change my rating system a little bit with my DNFs, but I didn't do that until about halfway through the reading month. So some I'm going to rate, some I'm not. This one is about Roy. He just moved to Florida. He started his school, met his first, well, I wouldn't say his first bully, but I would say first persistent bully, and trying to cope with life with that. And then he also gets intrigued by this boy who runs past the bus every single morning instead of going to school. So he dives deep into that, and this story is mostly about conservation and dealing with nature, the do's and don'ts of what you should and shouldn't be doing with nature, and just corruption in general, dealing with, right and wrong with nature. I did enjoy that part of the book very much. I like the writing enough to dive deeper into Carl Hiaasen because I know he has a lot more books. I even know that he has a new release that just came out last month, actually. So he's still writing, going strong. This is one of his first ones. I am more interested to see what they do with the movie. I remember seeing this when I was a kid, but I only remember seeing it one time. So I don't remember anything about it. I don't know if it was like the movie. No idea. It was a very cute story following 3 different kids who I believe are in middle school trying to fight for little itty bitty owls. And that is all I will say. That's all I can say because it'll just take away from the rest of the book. So I gave it a 3. I liked it. Didn't love it. Next one that I read, I do not physically have anymore, but I read The Extraordinary Life of an Ordinary Man. This is a memoir about Paul Newman. Going into this, I knew nothing about Paul Newman at all. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what he did. I don't know what movies he was a part of. Still don't, because the movies he was a part of, I have never seen any of them. And I tried digging into a little bit. I may watch some eventually, knowing more about him. But I enjoyed the story. I really did. I know a lot of people don't rate memoirs. I do, but I don't do it off of the person's life or the plot or any of that stuff. I know mostly about how well it was written, how well I understood it. Was there any times where I didn't like it, or to do with the writing, less to do with the actual person's life. If that makes sense. So for Paul Newman, starting off as a childhood, he's crazy childhood, but things were also different back then. He was born I believe he was born in the early 20s. So that puts him going through the wars, going through, the 50s, 60s. I believe he reached all the way up until early thousands. I could be wrong. They didn't really clarify that very well, so kind of have to figure that out for myself. I really enjoyed the story up until I figured out we have a cheating plot line in here. I didn't know that I don't condone anyone cheating. So for me, it was hard to get through, but I got through it. After reading the majority of the book and going into the last 25% of it, I was actually very bored. Not really bored, I was just more of losing interest. I think after we resolving all the divorcing and the infidelity and all that, after going through all of that, it kind of slowed down way too much. I feel like a lot more could have been said about what he was doing in his life. The politics section kind of brought me down a little bit too, but that's just a part of it. That's dealing with a lot about the times and everything that was going on. I knew there was going to be some at some point. So overall, I enjoyed it. I definitely learned a lot from it. I learned a lot about his life. I learned about what he did, who he coerced with. They even had a few excerpts in here where Tom Cruise did some interviews. I thought that was cool. But a lot of stuff like that. I did appreciate the fact that they did include a lot of interviews or what they thought about Paul and throughout his childhood. I thought that was really cool. The next one that I read for this month was Pride and Prejudice. Compared to Sense and Sensibility, I enjoyed Pride and Prejudice so much more. It is ranking up there with Persuasion. Persuasion is my top favorite from Jane Austen, probably will always be. This came very, very close. It brought back the aspect of Sense and Sensibility that I was missing, that mysterious aspect of a person's quality and, what they were like, who they actually hang around, what they were like around other people. It just was it was mysterious, and I do enjoy that aspect of Jane Austen's books when they are included. If they're not included, I find myself just not being interested. This one is about Elizabeth, which to me is funny considering Keira Knightley plays Elizabeth in the movie Pride and Prejudice. We have Elizabeth, we have her 3 sisters, and then we have her parents. Her mother made me so angry the whole book. She made me so mad. But she is trying to get her $4. She's trying to get her 4 daughters to be married. That is her sole purpose in life as a mother, is to ward her daughters off, all 4 of them, to rich and wonderful gentlemen that they are. And this poor mother, I shouldn't say poor mother, this aggravating mother, just wouldn't accept the fact that that her daughters just sometimes didn't care about a man, and it crushed her heart and soul. Putting that all aside, everything dealing with the mother, I love the book. I understand the hype behind it. Do I think it tops Persuasion? No. Assumptions going on, which I think is the main point of this, is that sometimes you just can't assume about a story from what one person tells you. You kind of got to get the full story, or at least both sides, to make an opinion, and that is one thing I did like about this. Now I can finally watch the movie for Pride and Prejudice. I have been hearing a lot that this is everybody's favorite, and I love Keira Knightley. I love her as an actress, so I'll be looking forward to watching this one along with Sense and Sensibility. I gotta watch both. But I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to watching it for the first time. I haven't watched a Jane Austen adaptation ever. I haven't seen any of them, so that'll definitely be an experience for me, considering now I've read pretty much all the major ones. I've read Emma, Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Persuasion. We'll see. The next one, I'd say this one was my least favorite book out of the whole bunch, and it was My Next Breath by Jeremy Rayner. If you guys watched my little shorts that I made about this book, you guys know how I feel about this. If you did not, I'm going to sum it up very, very easily for you. This book is everything about Jeremy and what he went through during, I believe it was 2021, when he had his accident. I'm not saying that I don't feel for him in this situation, but that is mostly all what this book is about. And I thought that we were going to get a lot more. I honestly didn't know what I was expecting, to be honest, when I got this. And it definitely was not that. So I took off 1 star solemnly for the grammar and the wording and the sentence formation. That needed work. Okay? That had nothing to do with the story. That had everything to do with the grammar. It needed work. I don't know what happened with the editing. In my opinion, it could have been written a lot differently. I will say this, though. I love this actor to death. I think he is a wonderful actor. I love the parts that he plays in, the Avengers and everything else. I think that they did him dirty on the editing because it made him come off as egotistical and rude and very self-absorbed. And I was not the only one who thought this. Everyone who didn't give it 5-star reviews just for him being the actor gave it to him very, very low because they thought the same thing I did. That he was making it seem like he was very full of himself, that it was all about him, putting some of his family in there, but also putting himself with his family in there. There wasn't really any interviews. I did seriously consider DNFing this. I did not. I read it through to the end because it was short. It was like about 200 pages, so I just sucked it up and I finished it to give my full opinion about this because I think it could have been a lot differently. The other aspect of this that I wanted to include was I think he just should have waited. If he wanted to do this, he could have written it at home and then later on in his career came out with an entire biography that would have taken us away. And we could have gotten a lot more out of it. People are just focusing on the event, but you know what? And I think this is the thing that most people aren't liking my opinion about this, is because things like this happen all the time. I can only imagine some of the other families in here. We've had people in so many different kinds of accidents, it's not even funny. But we don't see families putting a memoir out there about their experiences about something like this happening. And yes, was it traumatic? Yes. Was it bad for his family? Yes. Did he get put through a lot of stress and a lot of remediation? Yes. I'm not saying any of that. I am saying that it was either A, not needed, or it could have been held off until later on in his career. So that is my opinion about it. I was very mad when I first read it. I've toned down a lot. I've had time to think about it, stew about it, and my opinion has still stayed the same. So I did not enjoy this book about as much as I didn't enjoy another book in this. So the next one that I read for the month of June was another one of my 5-star reads, and that was Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. This is my first Jojo Moyes book, and I was blown away. I was blown away by the story. I was blown away by the writing, how much it captivated me, and just how much I felt for this book. So this is a story about Louisa. She has recently lost her job and now she's on the hunt for another one. She goes to the agency, she tries looking around, seeing what she can get for just being a waitress for a handful of years. That's all she's ever known. The only thing that comes up is being a caregiver for a paraplegic. So she goes over there, and then we meet Will. Will is just a ball of frickin' sunshine. I mean that in the most. She is very lively. She tries to, bring some aspects back into his life that he, lost, trying to get him to live up a little bit. She was asked here by his mother. She's very worried about him. Who wouldn't be? In this kind of a situation, he used to walk, run, be very adventurous, and now he's stuck in a wheelchair 24/7. I can only imagine how much pain he is going through every single day and how much he would rather just not be in the chair. The main point of the story dives deeper the further you get into it. I can't really talk about it because technically it is a spoiler, but I loved this so much, especially the romance. But I enjoyed this so much. I cried. I cried at the ending for a little bit. It was very, very moving. You get very attached to all of these characters in here. You know who everybody is. It's very simple. But the writing was just so good. It was so well done. We got a couple of other perspectives in here. Not very many. Most of it is Louisa's perspective. Jojo Moyes has me. I have 2 other books here by her, and I solemnly intend on reading those. Now, there is no doubt in my mind I love her writing, so I will continue to read it. And there's 2 others in this series as well. There's After You and There's still one other one. I forgot what it was called. But, I am almost scared to see the movie of this. Solemnly, because I don't want to cry again. I really did enjoy this very, very much. I will at least give it a try, but these are about some of my favorite actors and actresses in this movie, and I'm gonna give it a try just because of that. I'm excited. I am very excited to watch this, as well as continue the rest of the series for this. It blew me away. The next one that I finished was actually a DNF, and this is when I decided that I wasn't going to rate DNFs anymore if I didn't get more than 100 pages into the story. I got about 32 to Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. This story is the same as all the other ones that he's written, and I started noticing that around Paper Towns. Paper Towns was my favorite. You know, Looking for Alaska, Paper Towns. All these books are about someone going missing and a teen falling in love with another teen while trying to find them. Like, I was getting tired of it, and not only that, but the freaking cafeteria scene that's first thing in here lasted for almost an entire freaking chapter. Just talking to herself, and that put me off, and then I realized later when I started getting further and further into it, I just didn't care. So I stopped. I tried, but John Green, you did me dirty on this one. Now I know why it's not talked about. It is not talked about because it's the same as all the other books he's written, and it's probably one of my least favorites. This is mostly about Asa. She's a 16-year-old. She's going through, you know, life. I was convinced that she has OCD or something, or a hypochondriac, something that made her very unique. But her and her friend Daisy, they figure out about, you know, Russell Pickett's son. He's missing, so they're like, well, you were the last to see him, so let's go find him. And then the story goes from there. That's all it was. I will not be keeping it. Now, whether or not I watch the movie, that is completely up for debate. Because I haven't really watched any of John Green's adaptations. I haven't even seen The Fault in Our Stars adaptation. Just because I'm scared to. I feel like I didn't feel for them enough. I'm learning that I didn't love John Green as much as I thought I did because I wasn't as a thorough thinker as I was when I was a teenager. So, Fault in Our Stars is still one of my favorites. Paper Towns is very, very close. But the rest of them I just don't really care about anymore, and I kind of need to reevaluate my John Green choices because I have them, like, right here. There's Looking for Alaska, Fault in Our Stars, and Paper Towns right there. This will not be going on the shelf. And I need to reevaluate his books because I'm questioning it. The next one I read, I don't have a physical copy of anymore. It was The Shield to Sparrows. This was also my book club pick that I am a part of with Genesee Reads. This was also a DNF. However, I am going to rate this one. And I did rate it a 3.5 because I made it through about 70% of the book, which is a good 320 pages of the story. And I was just bored out of my ever-loving mind. People kept telling me it's going to get better after that. There's twists at the end. I shouldn't have to read 70% of the book to get one twist that turns into more twists. I shouldn't have to. And not only that, that wasn't the only thing that kind of deprived me. That was 1 star, is that I was so freaking bored, it just docked an entire star. The other reason why it got docked even further down was because the mailman characters. I felt like we were so disconnected from the mailman characters in the story. The guardian to the prince, and dealing with all of that, I felt so disconnected the whole time. You know, and for one of them, you're supposed to feel that way. For the guardian, not so much. He's in it a lot more, so we're like, well, I expect to feel something for this character, but I don't. Why do I not feel anything for these male characters? And for me, that took away a lot of, I think, why I was not interested in the book. Deputy Perry has written a lot of works, and I am interested to see if any of the other ones, you know, are better for me personally. I just didn't connect with this as much. I didn't really want to. I know it's going to be made into either a trilogy or a series. I'm just not interested. And the magic system was really, really good. I liked the monsters and the descriptions and everything dealing with that, but there was just so much. I don't know. I don't know where this went wrong. I don't. And I think the other thing that got me was learning the Guardian's real name. I hate that name. I won't say it because it's a spoiler, but I think that was the stupidest name you could have given the Guardian. So I DNF'd. I'm just not interested in it, to be honest. And we're gonna move on. So after that, the next, I needed something good. I needed something simple, something to the point. So I decided I needed a nonfiction. So we went with Brief Answers to the Big Questions by Stephen Hawking. I have not really read anything by Stephen Hawking. I know who he is. I know what he's done. I know, Big Bang Theory has mentioned him a lot, and I did a lot of my research from that. But this one, I have to admit, was really impressive. It made me think a lot in good ways and bad ways. So, for someone who doesn't read about science topics a lot, it was a little confusing on some of the topics. But the other ones is like, why are we here? Is there life outside of, the universe, or, big topics like that. And that was interesting to see his viewpoint. I was surprised to see that's the same as me and my husband's. Overall, I gave it a 4.5. I learned a lot from it. Would I recommend it? Yes. It's very short. I read it in I think it's a 6-hour long book. It's very, very short. But I listened to it. I understood about 75% of what he was talking about. The only times I didn't was when we were talking about quantum physics and theory and all that other stuff. That one goes in one ear and out the other. Until I need a dummies book about this. Which I may do. I've thought about it. I may do that. I enjoyed it. You guys would enjoy it if you like Stephen Hawking or you just want to know the answers to the big questions. Next one that I read for June was Tyranny of Tomorrow by Magda Mizzi. I got sent this at the beginning of June and I decided to read it. I am so happy with this book. And I fell so much in love with it. I do not have the copy at the moment because my friend Shannon heard about it from me while I was reading it, and she wanted to read it. So she has it right now. She has my copy of Tyranny of Tomorrow. I loved it so much. I gave it a 4.75. The only reason why I docked this, we're going to talk about why I did that after I explain a little bit of what it's about. This story is about, I don't remember the names at the top of my head because I don't have the physical book with me, and I haven't had it for about a week now. We have a teenage girl, teenage boy. Okay, 2 different perspectives. We actually have quite a few perspectives in this story, and it kind of hops in and out, but you know who's talking. It was actually very ingeniously done. I have to give her that. We got so many perspectives without having to have a paragraph of just someone talking. She wrote it in with the story. It was very impressive, actually. I gotta give her credit for that. This is a dystopian story about 2 teenagers trying to make it through an apocalyptic, scenario. And this particular apocalyptic scenario, try to say that 5 times fast, is dealing with a virus that breaks out. Now, this virus in particular, I actually did not fully understand this until later on in the book. This particular virus affects the person, makes them violent. It doesn't kill them, but it makes them violent whenever they come into contact. It's a body contact spreading virus. It's not airborne, it's spread through physical contact. Or in this case, which most of it is spread, is biting. So people can become very, very violent and start going around trying to just spread the disease. Doesn't necessarily kill them. It only kills them if they get a hold of a crucial part trying to spread the disease and they accidentally kill them. That's not they die and then get risen up. It's more like you just get infected. You're not actually dead. So it's a serotonin and aggressive type of virus. It's like a zombie book, I am gonna say. It was very horrific. We have so many bad moments in this where I was tense as mess. I got so stressed out by reading this, which tells me that it was very well written. That's what that book is about. I absolutely loved it. I loved everything about it. The only thing I would say is my critique about this book, which gave it a 4.75, was it reminded me a lot about the plot of Walking Dead. It reminded me a lot of Rick and his son and, the group traveling together. It's very eerily similar. There were a few differences, and that's why, I kept reading instead of it was just a copycat. It's not. It's a different take on that. If it were a different circumstance, I think would be the best way to explain it. But I loved it just the same. So I was very happy with it. I'm happy I got to read it. I'm happy that they sent it to me and offered it to me to review. I was very, very happy with this. And it's very underrated. There is less than 100 reviews about this book. Please go read them. And they are all on Kindle Unlimited, so you guys can read them very, very easily. I do intend on reading the rest of the series on Kindle Unlimited as well. I believe the next one is Echoes of Today, and then another one. I don't remember the titles off the top of my head. The next one that I read for June, it was kind of a spontaneous read. I saw it everywhere when it first came out at the library. I was interested in it mostly because of the cover. Now I should have realized I needed to dive a little bit more into it because it had one of my non-favorite tropes in it. So we're talking about Fault Lines. This is by Emily Itami. This is a literary fiction. It's very, very short. That's why I wanted to read it. It's just a good palate cleanser to start another book. It has a cheating trope in it. I hate anything dealing with cheating. That's my only down that I had about this book. This is set in Tokyo. Very, very different. Mostly about a woman living in Tokyo with her husband and her 2 kids. Her husband isn't very appreciative, but he works all day. He's tired. He just wants to come home and go to sleep. And all she wants to do is, go off, feel like she can talk to somebody about her problems, to go out and have fun. And I do understand that emotional depravity because it is very common in marriages. And, realizing this earlier on in my relationship with Nick was that he wasn't home all day long and he was tired when he got home. Yeah, we didn't have a lot of time together, but when we were together, it was amazing. So sometimes you have to make time for each other, and I think that was the point where I started being okay with the book. I don't like a cheating trope, and this was mostly what the book was about, is she went off to find someone else who appreciated her in the moment. So I liked it. I mean, I gave it a 4. It was good. It was short enough for me just to get it out of the way and finish it. So that's exactly what I did. I did enjoy the writing, though, more than anything else. So I think I will read other works by Emily Itami. And I haven't read a lot of literary fic. So for me, this was a complete open door to other literary fictions because I do enjoy a literary fic. I figured it out. It was good enough for me to read it. I just should have looked into it being a cheating trope. That was my bad. So, yeah. So the next one that I have that I ended up reading for June is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I finally got around to reading this. I haven't read anything by Emily Henry since reading A Million Junes, I believe, in March or February. I don't remember. But I really enjoyed the book. Great Big Beautiful Life surprised me. I did mention this in my middle of the year tag. I really enjoyed this. I think that people have overhyped this, and then also downplayed it very, very much. I think the expectation of Emily Henry was too high to rate this book fairly. From someone who has not read a lot of Emily Henry, I thought the book was perfectly fine. I don't have that high expectation that a lot of people have come to have with her books, and I think having an outsider's perspective on this, the only thing I did not like from this book was the fact that Alice was very, very eager to start the romantic relationship, a little too eager for my taste. So, Great Big Beautiful Life, for those who don't know, is a book about Alice and another author. I have forgotten his name already. When I don't have books in my hand, it's hard to remember names. So, Alice, I only remember because she was my favorite character so far this year. I laughed so much during this book. So, this is a story about Alice and one other author who have come together to create a memoir for this very popular lady who just now reappeared. She had disappeared for many, many years, and she only just now reemerged and wants to tell her story finally. She told them she's not going to pick one of them to do this memoir. She wants to make it a competition to see who gets to write the memoir, which is a very interesting setup. I thought it was just going to be about, that, but we actually got that as well as the background for this lady they were doing the memoir for. I enjoyed the literary aspect of this and getting the backstory about this lady because it was fun. It was a different perspective. It gave it the bulk of the book. I enjoyed it, but I enjoy literary fiction. I can see why a lot of people wouldn't like it, especially if they were only interested in the romance aspect of things, which was in Alice's and his time period. I liked the mystery aspect of it and the historical aspect of it. It was like a lot of things wrapped up into one. It was an interview, it was historical, there was the romance part of it. I loved it. I honestly did. So I gave it a 4.75. It was the only thing I docked it for was the eagerness to start the romance. I think she was getting a little too hyped up. So that's the only thing I didn't like about it. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I finished it in 2 days. So I personally liked it, and I think it gets downplayed a lot because of the Emily Henry expectations that have been set. So from an outsider's perspective, I think you will like the book if you haven't read a lot of Emily Henry. If you have, be prepared to be disappointed. It's not one of her best works according to everybody else, but that's the point. It's according to everybody else. This is my opinion. And I say it was really, really great. Next, we are moving on to one of my favorite historical authors, which is Miss Fiona Davis, and I read Lions of Fifth Avenue. This is my least favorite Fiona Davis so far. She still came strong, though, with a 4-star. There were a couple of things that made this iffy for me. So, this story is about Laura. She's set in 1913. And she is the wife of the caretaker for the big library in New York. And she's got 2 children. She's mostly a stay-at-home body, but she just always wanted to become a reporter. So that's her dream. And then we hop over to 80 years later in the future with Sadie, and she is one of the curators of the library itself. I love how she intertwined the storylines like she always does. She's very good at, explaining one with the other. She's very good at that, just like Sarah Penner's really, really good at that. The twist at the end did surprise me. It was very, very, I did not see that coming, so kudos to that. At the end of the day, she got a 4, mostly because during the time period that this takes place in, it's the 1913s. It's before the wars, and, women were still discriminated against. There is actually some LGBTQ going on in here, too, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it definitely surprised me. I'm like, oh, because that's not a typical Fiona Davis move. So I was surprised by that. I did enjoy it, but once again, It's a cheating trope. I don't know what it was with this month, giving me cheating tropes or hidden cheating tropes. I don't know if that was why I got disconnected, but I was way disconnected before that even came up. So I don't know. But it's still a Fiona Davis book. I still enjoyed it myself enough to finish it and give it a good rating. Just probably not enough to read it either again or give it to somebody else. So I'm at a cross point with this one. I don't know whether or not to keep it. I don't know whether or not to give it another home. The next one that I read, I needed this. I definitely needed this. We Did Along for the Ride by Sarah Dessen. Sarah Dessen can do me no wrong, ever, including with this. I liked it. I have to admit, not as much as the last one I read from her, which was Just Listen. This one, I did enjoy it. I did follow the story. It did get me angry. I was angry for more than half of the book, but I think that's the only reason why I didn't like it as much. With the other books, I didn't get as angry. This one, I mean, she's a 4.75. She's still great, and I loved it. I still remember a lot of what happened. This one is about Auden. She is staying with her father for her summer right before she decides to go to college. It's like a last hurrah before she's got to do a whole bunch of other stuff. It was like a spur-of-the-moment decision. She's always lived in a household where love was not a thing, so she's just really iffy on it. Her parents are very well-known people. They're both writers and both professors, I believe, or I think just her mother's a professor and her father's just a writer. Professional household, a lot of expectation going on and writing on Auden. But then she gets over and she meets Eli. It's so funny how she lives. I can relate to Auden very, very well because she's a night owl. She doesn't really sleep, at night. She mostly sleeps during the really early morning into the daytime. And she's up probably until about like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm usually up from midnight until 1 o'clock, so I consider myself a night owl. I related to her. Just there's a lot more things to do when people are asleep because the world's quiet. It gives you time to think. It gives you time to cool down. Just see things from a different light than you would in the daytime. It's mostly about her, relaxing, having a good time with Eli, and traveling around, trying different things, and also helping out with her now stepmother's new baby. And I mean new baby, like few weeks old baby. And this baby is a screamer. So there's a lot of that going on in here, a lot going on with her father and their relationship that they have. But for a very chunky young adult book, I really enjoyed it. Something extra missing that made me not want to give it a 5-star. Despise the parents wholeheartedly, but in a good way. You're supposed to in this kind of scenario. Her message in this, as with all of her other books, she always gives a message. This one is second chances are better than not taking them at all and pursuing a professional dream instead of actually living and enjoying what's around you instead of just being stuck in a book 24/7. And I think that is a very powerful message. You can't live just professionally. You have to live at least some life too. And I will be looking forward to watching the movie for this. I have also never seen a Sarah Dessen adaptation for a movie either. So that will also be new to me. I already looked at the cast. I think that they're very close to how I pictured them, believe it or not. So I didn't get to see what the dad or the mother looked like. So that'll be interesting. I enjoyed it. It was a good palate cleanser. I needed that palate cleanser very badly after having a bunch of books that were just cheating trope after cheating trope after cheating trope. That doesn't even... I didn't want that this month. Finally brightened up enough for me to actually turn my lamp off and quit giving that little orange glow. So, the second to last one, we are almost there. There's a lot. But the second to last one, I had already finished my TBR at this point. I was just looking for some reads to do to keep me occupied for the rest of the month until I, took a chill on reading for a little bit. So I decided to pick up The Scorch Trials by James Dashner. And he got a 3.5. I already was feeling iffy about The Maze Runner in general. Made me even more iffy about this one. And the main reason why is because the world building is not set up in a way that makes it very explainable. So, when it came to this book, I feel like what we didn't get in the first book, it definitely didn't deliver in the second book either. I thought originally it was just because I didn't like Thomas, but in the reality, I didn't like how Wicked was set up. I didn't like the world building and how that was set up. Teresa was pissing me off, like hard pissing me off. And the girl group I never really got anyway. I don't know why it was necessary. They didn't really explain that well either. I just feel like there's not a lot of explaining going on in this for me to feel like I'm connected to it. I did debate for a while DNFing the series. However, Death Cure is the only one left after this one, and then we hop into prequels. The Kill Order is a prequel, and the Fever Code is a prequel. Each dealing with how the maze was built, Thomas's backstory, and the Kill Order was how the whole world came to be in this way anyway. So, I'm debating. More than likely what's going to happen is that I am going to read the Death Cure. I can't guarantee I'm going to like it, but I am looking forward to getting a hold of the prequels, to understanding more about this world. We're already not on a good score point, so it's just, and to be honest, I felt that way about the movie too. The Maze Runner, just, to me, the first one was the best one. Everything after that, it didn't really explain anything that we usually, we get more backstory, we get more how the world came to be the way it was. We get one conversation in the entire book of the Scorch Trials. Oh, this is what happened to the world in one sentence. One sentence explaining what happened. That's not... This one just... It didn't hit for me, and frankly, neither did the movie when I first watched it. It's been a hot minute since I've seen the movies. I watched them each as they came out. My mom was interested in them, so we watched them. I was done by the second one. I just wasn't interested anymore, and I'm feeling that way about the books too, which is not a good thing. The last and final book I read for the month of June was It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Bizzini? I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I did this on a splurge too. This is also one of the ones I needed to read this year, without fail. This book is about a boy named Craig. He has clinical depression and suicidal tendencies. That's mostly what this book is about, is him having an episode to the point where he went to the ER and he's in the middle of getting help. And while staying there, he starts really thinking about what caused him to get to that point, any triggers, or, things that'll solidify that will not make him think like that anymore. From someone who has thought some of the thoughts that have been in this book, I thought it was very well represented for the pressure that a lot of teenagers go through when they're in school and they're expected to, be great, expected to do great things in the world. But at the end of the day, every kid is different. Every kid can handle certain levels of stress. Every kid can handle certain levels of professional outlook. He is at a professional school in San Francisco, I believe, as we talk about the Golden Gate Bridge in here. So I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the writing. I actually gave this a 4.25. It was very relatable. I related to a lot of the ideologies of the characters and some of the ones that we meet later on in the story. And I connected really well with what the whole book was about, really. The only thing that I would say that got me was, being an adult looking at these things. Certain things you just notice automatically, like I knew why he was feeling the way he was, and it took the whole book to get to that point. I knew it within like the first 50 pages. So for me, I think I could have needed this when I was younger versus reading it as an adult. That may be my fault, but at the same time, it's chunky. Like, chunky. So I don't blame myself for not reading it, because also it was a very touchy subject for me in high school. Not as much now, because I'm over it and I got past it and everything. But it's very relatable story, and I am thankful that I read it now. I was actually very surprised to see that this was also made into a movie. I haven't heard anything about this one, so that one was completely new to me. I am willing to give this one a go, only because with the topics that are in here, and I know this is going to be everybody's question dealing with this, is how bad are the tendencies, and, you know, is there anything really triggering that happens in here? This book, compared to some that I've read, is very, very tame. And there's no, you know, attempts, really. It was more just the thinking, and it overwhelmed him, and he called. There's no blood, there's no gore, there's nothing like that. So it's very tame compared to what it could have been. So I was very thankful about that, because I was hoping for nothing too heavy. It wasn't. It really wasn't. So it read more like a slice of life type of story, overcoming like anxiety and depression and all those. It was more based on that than the actual tendencies. So, and that is it for the enormous stack that I have next to me. I read a lot this month. It is ridiculous. But considering more than half of these were audiobooks, I go through them very, very quickly. Do I retain them? Yes, obviously. I retained each what they were about, and that was really without looking at the back of the book. I only needed to look to see the names. That was it. You know, I'm bad with names already, so those are all my reads that I read for the month of June. Quite a few of them. 16 is a lot. Like, a lot. I don't know if I'm going to read that much next month, but I got a few reading vlogs planned for you guys coming up. I've got a few things that I'm going to work on in preparing for a few months down the road. I am super excited for the next 3 months that are going to be coming. There's going to be very exciting months. That is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining me today, going through all my reads for the month of June. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That'll help me bring you guys more videos every week. Please comment if you liked any of these books, or if you want me to read something in particular. Love your reads and drink your teas, and I'm going to go start reading some more. Bye!
You say it's hard to tell just what I'm thinking.